if you can get good at webinars, then you can create so much success with an online business. For me, hosting a webinar, figuring out how to run webinars and be successful at it was the first way I managed to sell online properly with my business, the Female Entrepreneur Association. It's so powerful. So in this episode, I am joined by my friend, the amazing Colin Boyd. He actually helped me to craft my webinars, and he's breaking down some amazing tips so you can craft amazing webinars to sell your course or to sell your online offers. So let's dive in. My number one goal is to help you to make your first 100,000 with an online business and then beyond that, and for it to be fun and for it to be simple. And one of the most amazing ways to do this is through webinars, which is why I'm so excited that Colin's here. Colin, thank you for being here. I'm so excited. Obviously, you've helped me with my webinars in the past, and I have seen firsthand how incredible they can be for getting your course out there and actually selling it. So I'm so excited to hear from you all things webinar and how we can all leverage them to grow our businesses. From my experience, I remember hosting my first webinar at the very end of 2012, and it was actually really crazy. It was actually with Amy Porterfield. So I had reached out to Lewis Howes and said he'd left his Gmail email address on a comment on one of his blog posts, and I saw it. I was like, I'm going to email Lewis Howes. So I emailed him and was like, really love what you're doing. If I can support you, let me know. And he replied, and I was like, oh my God, he's replied. And so he connected me with his business partner at the time, and they were in business with Amy, and she had this program called FB Influence where she taught people Facebook. And we did this webinar on like the 20th of December. And I remember being so bloody terrified. I literally downed a glass of wine before it started. And I was sat there, and my camera wasn't on for it. I was sat on my bed, and all I had to do was introduce her. Oh my God, it was the most terrifying thing ever. And anyway, so I introduced her. She did this amazing webinar, and she sold her FB Influence program at the end. And we split the profits 50-50. And I think I made about like $2,000 from it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just made $2,000 and I was sat here for an hour. And then I remember doing more webinars. I remember doing one with Melanie Duncan, which was on Pinterest, and it generated over $20,000. And I was like, bloody hell, like this is amazing. And then since having my own, my membership, I've done so many webinars to promote my membership, and you've helped me with webinars. And so I've got like this firsthand experience of knowing that being able to show up online, being able to present what I can, like, something helpful and something valuable, and then communicate how we can continue that journey and like sell my course or my membership, has just been, it's so effective. And you must see this obviously with all the people that you work with as well.
Yeah, I know for me, when I started out, I mean, I didn't start out at such a large experience as you, Carrie, with working with Amy Porterfield, although I have done quite a lot of coaching for her now, for all of her events, which is kind of cool, full circle story.
Yeah.
But when I started out, I had like 2 people on my webinar, and no one bought, and I just saw it as an experiment. But I remember just getting obsessed with what's the difference between a webinar that gets nice comments and a webinar that gets clients. And over about a 3-year period, I learned how to run webinars properly, and going from, no clients through to running $100,000 webinars. And, you spend an hour and make $100,000. I mean, most people wouldn't be disappointed with that. And so that journey for me was a journey of understanding how to create the content right, and how to create the offer right, and the stories and all that sort of stuff, which we'll go through today. But I say that with my students all the time, because what I find is that a webinar is such a powerful conversion mechanism, and it's one of the simplest ones, because there's lots of complex different ways of launching, but I just like webinars because they're simple.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? And I feel like I've seen people do this, and I mean, I've done it myself. When you can just practice getting good at delivering a webinar, and you can just practice it over and over and over again, showing up and delivering it. And like what you were saying, showing up and there was like 2 people there and like you didn't make any sales. Then deconstructing what happened and figuring out, okay, how do I need to make this better, and just going for it. Your story in itself goes to show that anyone can get good at this. Like, anyone can become amazing at delivering an online webinar and getting people to buy. It's just kind of learning the skills and practicing, which is so bloody exciting. So, talking about this then, what are the things that people need to focus on to actually create a successful webinar so they can sell their course to more people?
Well, I'll share with you 3 tips for this short podcast / masterclass today. So the first tip that I have for people that really helps to grow their course sales or any sort of sales on a webinar is it's actually a mindset tip. The first tip is really working on your mindset of seeing selling as the doorway to serving your audience. You see, what happens is when people are prepping for a webinar, they'll usually get quite nervous. They'll get overwhelmed and concerned. And a lot of the time that is because they are worried about the fact that they're going to sell. They're going to make an offer. They're going to share something as the next step. And one of my obsessions with helping people is, first of all, is shifting your mindset from seeing selling as something where you're taking something from someone else to being selling as the doorway to serving your audience on the next level. And what I mean by that is you've got 2 groups in your world. You have an audience, an external audience, their prospects, and then you've got clients. And who, for you, Carrie, I mean, it's not a trick question, who gets the best results?
The people that work with us and our customers.
Totally, right? Totally, not a trick question.
Yeah.
So your clients always get the best results, not your prospects. So in other words, the reason why they get the best results is because they're more committed and you're more committed to them. And that is because you actually made an offer. In other words, you sold. And when the right person buys and enters that space or that offer, which for me is actually a very sacred place. So, Female Entrepreneur Association, with you, that's a sacred place where you hold space for women and I was going to say men, but I guess maybe some men might be in there. But
there are
for
a few.
Women, there are a few. I think I'm a member actually. But for women to truly transform their business and their lives. And so that's the first big shift is people have to go. They have to see selling as the doorway to serving their audience. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I do, because I really love that. I think for me, that was one of my biggest money mindset blocks, was feeling that if I was going to offer something, that I was kind of taking away from me just being helpful and showing up and helping people. And it's crazy how backwards I got it. Like, selling is serving. You are of more value, you're more helpful. Exactly what you just said, when you put an offer out there and you help people in a deeper way. That was like a light bulb moment for me of realizing that, because it gave me the determination to just go for it and to figure out how to get good at doing that so I could help more people in a bigger way. So I love it. It's so important.
Yeah, exactly. And I reflect on my life. Joining other people's programs have completely fundamentally changed my life. Like, we live in Newport Beach, California. I would not be living in the US and would not have had the chance to coach and work with people like you, work with Amy Porterfield, like Carrie Green, Britt Stever, like all these different people. Like, I wouldn't have the chance to do that if it wasn't for being in other people's programs.
Yeah.
And that happened because they made an offer. And this is the revelation I want your audience to realize, is that if they don't make so good. Did you like that when I quoted you? So good. I'm glad we're good friends like this, that we can do this.
You set me off. You're giving me the giggles. I don't even know what I'm laughing at. Oh my god, I've lost the plot. Oh my gosh. Okay, back to webinars then. So what else can people focus on in order to be able to pull off a webinar that is going to help them to really grow?
Yeah. So the second piece is the big mistake that people make is they go into their course for the content on their webinar. Now, a lot of people think they think if I can share the stuff that's in my course and blow people away, then they would, and that's for free. Let's say you do a free webinar. Most people think, well, then they'll definitely want to work with me.
Yeah.
And so the mistake that people make is that they get the course content and they put it in their webinar. And if you've done that before, first of all, that's normal. Like that's what most people start out with. But that won't sell your program. What will sell your program is actually understanding what are the beliefs that the audience has to believe to say yes to your program. And then how do you present content in a way that creates desire for your course? Now, I'm not saying it's not helpful, but it actually reduces the resistance that the audience has towards saying yes, and then also creates desire for the very thing that you help them with. And then if you can align those two, it's like you reduce the resistance and create the desire, and you can align it with your unique mechanism, then that's game changing, right? So that's what I call infusion selling. In fact, I know Carrie, you're going to share at the end a training that I've got coming up where we're going to go deep into this. But there's a concept called infusion selling, and infusion selling is teaching and selling at the same time. And so that's what people need to do. They don't need to use their course content. They need to use content that actually creates desire and reduces resistance.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about that when you were helping me with my webinar and feeling like it's just such a helpful skill to learn as well. So yeah, I love it. Okay, so what's the final thing that people can do?
So the final thing is that you need to use your story to sell your stuff. And so most people tell their origin story, but they don't tell what I call their conversion story. And there's 3 elements to a conversion story. But the biggest difference that an origin story has to a conversion story is that an origin story is kind of your timeline for how you got into what you're doing, all that sort of stuff. A conversion story is the story that when you tell it, your audience actually sees themselves in your story. And it also transfers the belief that the audience must have to say yes to your offer. And so the conversion story is the one where they go, wow, firstly, this person understands me because they've been through somewhat similar stuff, especially internally. And then they say, wow, this person can actually lead me as well. Like they've seen some progress. And then finally, it is that you can actually help them to achieve the outcome that you want. So to review them, the 3 ideas is that selling is the doorway to serving, that your course content is not the content that you should put in your webinar, and that your story is not about you. It's not about your journey. It's actually about telling it in a way where the audience see themselves in your story. And then it leads to your unique mechanism or your offer.
Yeah, I love it. And I just feel like this is such an important skill, I think, for people to learn when they have an online business, and especially when you're selling courses. Like this is such a great method for getting your offer out there and selling. So thank you so much for coming and sharing that and making me laugh at the same time. I appreciate it. Obviously, you have got your training coming up, your sell from webinar training. And I honestly think for any of you watching this or listening to this who want to learn more about like how can I get really blooming good at webinars, then definitely don't miss this free training. So you could go and find out more about it. We put a link together, it's in the show notes, but fea.link/webinar, fea.link/webinar, and you can go and see all the info and sign up for it, and don't blooming miss it because it'll be so good. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm gonna be there tuning in.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, I mean, we get a ton of people every year when we run this. We rarely run this training, and it's going to go really deep into shifting your mindset to feel comfortable selling, how to structure a webinar, like how to actually structure a presentation or a webinar to actually get clients, how to create your offer so that it sells, how to create your story, your conversion story. Like, we're going to go into a ton of that, and it's free. So definitely go and follow Carrie's link to join us. I'd love to serve you guys.
Amazing. Colin, thank you so much for coming and sharing it. I'm so excited for everyone, mostly because I just know how bloody amazing webinars are. And they're an incredible tool that all of us can be using. So yes, definitely check that out. Thank you so much. And I really hope you've enjoyed this. If you've got any questions whatsoever, then just let us know. We're always here to help you and cheer you on. But I will see you next time for another episode of the She Means Business Show.